Good morning and thank you for joining us. Our top story this morning, the Israeli Air Force launched retaliatory strikes in Syria overnight after yesterday's cross-border attack which killed a 15-year-old boy and wounded 5 others. The IDF confirmed direct hits on 9 army positions belonging to the Assad regime, including a regional command center. Syria has yet to formally respond to the strikes. For more on this story, we're joined in studio by I-24 News senior Middle East analyst Ali Waqid. Good morning, Ali. And also by Channel 10's diplomatic correspondent Moab Vardi. Good morning to you both. Moab, of course, yesterday's attack did signify a different kind of pace between Israeli-Syrian relations, something that we've seen some kind of cross-border attacks in the past in the last 2 years, but yesterday was an escalation. Yeah, an escalation because the attack by the Syrian side on this vehicle, the Israeli vehicle that worked on the fence on the border, which killed the Israeli teen, has been signaled something else because it was an anti-tank missile, and when you fire an anti-tank missiles, it means that you're targeting a specific position, a specific target, and it's not, you know, we got used to some kind of firing from Syria to the Israeli border, as you know, in the margins of the civil wars that is taking place inside Syria. This incident yesterday was targeted at the Israeli vehicle, and that signals something else. Very unpleasant, very disturbing, and Israel retaliate in a I would say much bigger force than in the past, right? And even striked, you know, the headquarters of a whole battalion, a Syrian battalion. Now the thing is complicated. Why? Because this region is in every single moment is in the battle, in the middle of the battle between the rebels, mainly the FSA, the Syrian army, and the Syrian army of Assad regime plus Hezbollah. Right. And you cannot even know all the time whether it was Hezbollah, whether it was a Syrian army, and Israel is trying to play a very delicate game. On the one hand, Israel has to signal out a strict message that it will not tolerate any kind of these attacks. On the other hand, Israel does not want to intervene in the civil war, does not want to go inside Syrian soil. So, you know, it's a big question mark. What if there is going to be a second attack like yesterday, a third attack like yesterday? Because up until now, Israel has retaliated heavily, but only sitting from the outside, but by Air Force airstrike. Right. What will direct be next? Hits. And of course, Ali, the big question is who is behind the attacks, what Moab brought up as well. The Israeli Air Force did target Assad's regime, but it also could be many different rebel groups within the area. Could also be Hezbollah, and also could be connected to what's going on now in the West Bank and, of course, Hamas.
Well, I don't think it is connected to what's happening in the West Bank, because this region is, without what is happening in the West Bank, already very tended. As Moab said, this region is in the middle of the battle between the regime and between the rebels. Almost every day, the side who is taking control over this or that town, this or that village is changing. ISIS and the Assad regime, and sometimes the Syrian Free Army, are fighting over the crossings between Israel and Syria, between Jordan and Syria, between Iraq and Syria, and so on. So it is. Will the Israelis rush to accuse the regime and Hezbollah? I don't have any signal who might be behind this attack, because numerous players are acting in this region. Now it depends on the quality of the missile that was shot and the assumptions who from the sides in fightings in Syria can process this. Yes,
right, of course.
I must add, to Ali, following what Ali said. You know, Ali, first of all, an anti-tank missile like that is more likely to be in the hand of Hezbollah and Assad regime than in the FSA,
although
the Free
international
Syrian
community and Saudi Arabia decided very recently to supply more sophisticated arms to the Syrian rebels, especially to the moderate Syrian rebels, and the Free Syrian Army is.
That's why I use the term That's why I use the term likelihood, and not, and I'm not 100% sure. And second, if you examine the interests behind it, it's less likely that the FSA, the Free Syrian Army, as a rebel side, will have the interest now to harm Israel and to take Israel into, to drag Israel into this conflict. It's more likely, bearing in mind that it is, a targeted attack, not by incident, not by accident,
yeah.
that it will be Hezbollah or Assad regime to do it.
I tend to agree with you, but on this specific region of the borders, there is a small jihadist Salafist group that has nothing to do with the Free Army, named the Small Sons of the Prophet, which is a small local jihadi group that is taking control over some towns in the borders, and they don't have direct relations with the ISIS or other group. Local jihadist group that is taking control and from time to time fighting with the regime, and from time to time also fighting with the Syrian Free Army. So all options are there. I do agree with Moav that the quality of the weapons and apparently the fact that they targeted very directly an Israeli
It was
goal,
a premeditated attack. It wasn't something...
Yeah, show that we saw this scenario in mostly in Lebanon. So this is why I understand why the Israelis rush to accuse Hezbollah. I tend to agree with this accusation, but the problem is in that region, many players are acting. Nobody knows who at a very specific moment decide to shoot where.
And we must put attention to another problem, Yael, because up until now the Syrian army has absorbed quietly the Israeli retaliations in the past incidents. Now, the last night retaliation by the Israeli Air Force was comparable. It was very heavily. And the question mark right now this morning is whether or not the Assad regime will keep quiet about it, because Israeli Air Force targeted, a battalion headquarters. And
I have news for you. It has no big options, the Syrian regime, Moab.
Yeah, it just can generate more incidents like that on the fence to show Israel that Assad is not willing just to sit aside and quietly and absorb this retaliation by Israel when he thinks that he is not the one in charge of these attacks.
Yeah, but in local meetings of the Ba'ath Party in the Syrian sides of the Golan, the Syrian leader emphasized on the fact that the next round of confrontation, the next battle will be on liberating the Golan. So I think that for the moment the Assad regime has no interest on escalating with Israel before dealing and finishing the big mess that it is facing with the rebels. But I think that the past 4 years until the Syrian revolution won't be the same case for the next future in these borders.
Let's also, of course, talk about what's happening in the West Bank. Today is the 11th day for the search of the 3 kidnapped boys. Yesterday, Ban Ki-moon spoke with Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, and Ban Ki-moon expressed his concern about the wave of violence and mass arrests of Palestinians in the West Bank in the past few days. And in the conversation with Netanyahu, Ban called on Israel to prevent any kind of escalation. Moav, Netanyahu, we said he's buying time. He's been buying time. Now it's coming down to the nitty-gritty of diplomacy. Can he convince the international community that what Israel is doing in the West Bank is justified?
Yeah, I think that Netanyahu has a problem right now. I think that Netanyahu understands that he has a problem. And up until now, there was being carried out 2 different operations. One operation specifies, targeted at finding what happens to these 3 boys. The second operation was taking the opportunity, the timing of the kidnap. I'm not being cynical, I'm being very, very realistic, to hold or to conduct an attack against Hamas infrastructure in the West Bank, in Nablus, in Jenin, in Hebron.
Right.
Now, what happened is that after 2 days or something like that, it was not efficient anymore. The cost-benefit was more of the cost than to the benefit. And senior IDF officials, or I would say officers, told Israeli politicians in the past 2 days that they have a suspicion of a very, very deep doubt that this attack against Hamas infrastructure is having some kind of benefit that worth the cost. And the cost is what we are seeing now in the video, in the VTR. Why? Because Israel raided an office of printing posters of Hamas the night before, and it generated huge riots against Abbas in his own home capital. And Israel happens to come to a point where, as instead of supporting Abbas by sitting quiet and let Abbas confront Hamas, as he said in Saudi just last week, Israel, by these pictures that we see right now, by these photos, by these videos, turned the Palestinian population in Ramallah against Abbas. And after all, senior Israeli IDF officers tells me that, after all, these operations is against the dawah, is against the civilian political infrastructures.
Right.
They don't confiscate or found weapons. They don't find grenades. They don't find rifles or, guns. They find, papers. They find paperwork, computers, stuff like that. And when you see these kind of pictures, Israeli cabinet starts to understand that it's not worth, and we will see in the coming days, in the heading day of two up and ahead of us, Yael, a change, a shift in the strategy. No more things like that. No more big operations against Hamas infrastructures, because Israeli ministers, Israeli leadership understand that it harms the efforts to find the kidnapped boys more than it helps to do that.
And President Abbas, of course, is warning Israel that these prolonging raids, as Moav says, could actually incite the territory and plunge it out of control. He's warning, of course, of a third intifada.
Yeah, on this set last week, we assumed that as long as this operation will be maintaining, as much of the Palestinian anger will turn against the Palestinian Authority and against the IDF, and less against Hamas. Now, what Moav said, targeting the civil infrastructure of Hamas, and especially the charity associations, means that you are profounding the needs and poverty of the people that is already in a very bad financial and economical situation. And it means that tomorrow morning, when you are going to take your sum of money, monthly sum of money from Hamas, from this charity association, you won't receive it, and you will not accuse Hamas for kidnapping the three boys. You will accuse Israel, and you will accuse the Palestinian Authority for collaborating with the Israeli.
I must say something to balance the picture here. Some of these charity organizations, why the IDF in the first time tried to go there and to shut it off, to shut it down, because this charity sometimes is money laundering, helping to get
only money laundering.
Yeah, yes. but Ali, it's not only paying these payments for the for the population for charity reasons. It's also a pump line in order to transfer money by Hamas to the terror organization.
Even if you have only a small percentage that go to the people that need this money, you already gain a portion of the population who is against this operation, who is identifying
I'm only
with
saying
Hamas.
Look, it's a question of trade-off. Of course, you harm the population. I'm just saying, I'm not being judgmental.
That Moav talked about,
I'm not being judgmental, and I'm not justifying. Ali, I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying that the thought behind doing it, it's not something that Israel wants to harm the Palestinian population, but to cut off the transfer of money to the Hamas terror.
In this case, I tend to disagree with you, because Israel knows all the infrastructure of the offices that change money in the West Bank, and that Hamas already own most of the bureaus of money change in the West Bank that were already targeted in the past. In the charity association, the possibility to launder money is much more reduced than in change money offices. And even if there is only small numbers of people who need these services of these charity associations, you are creating.
You're harming a small part of the population. But doesn't Netanyahu, of course, understand this? We spoke about last week. Does this operation have an end goal? Does it have a red line that it says this is where we're going to go to, and once we get to this place, we're going to stop? Does the Israeli government now have a kind of goal for objective, a clear objective?
The clear objective is from day one to find these three boys that are missing, were kidnapped.
But we said there's another operation.
There is another operation against Hamas. Now, the another operation against Hamas has started for good reasons, to trying to harm the Hamas terror infrastructures within the West Bank. After a day or two, it is over, Yael. Why? Because there are several people that are out there, Hamas activists that are out there, that Israeli authorities know that they are in some way complicated themselves with terror acts. And the Shin Bet, the security organization, the Israeli security organization, stop them every day, every night of the year with no connection to the kidnap. This is their job. So after a day or two, there is no more targets to go. And then what the IDF found itself doing is going to Ramallah at 1 o'clock a.m. in the morning and, breaking to this place that are just printing posters of Hamas instead of doing something substantial, because there is no something substantial doing after 2 days or two.
And the substantial that was not done also was baking up seriously and significantly Abbas when he, from the middle of the Arab world, sitting in Saudi Arabia, condemning the kidnapping and calling upon the Palestinian people to give up any violent method of fight against Israel. We didn't understand and we didn't understood how significant, how courageous what was said. Abbas and the Palestinian population, part of it at least, turned against him quicker than we thought. More in a very tough way. The reputation of the Palestinian Authority today, it was all the time, but as it is a collaborator of Israel than a civil servant of the Palestinian
people. Doesn't seem to be going the other way, at least not for now. Ali Waka, thank you for joining us. Moav Vardi, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up are the headlines. Welcome back to I-24 News Morning Edition. Now we get to say hello and good morning to the one and only Anthony Grant, who joins us daily to discuss the news you may have missed while scanning the morning headlines.
Good morning to you,
Good
the one
morning.
and only Elvis Nerlevy.
The one and only. The two people that had to wake up on this Monday morning.
Oh, well, the crows woke me up, so it's all good.
The crows,
the bird
scary.
life, yeah, I know, those cawing.
What are we starting with?
A lot of noise in the Los Angeles Times about a big Israeli-American story. Headline here, Israel criticizes Presbyterian divestment in protest of its policies. Basically, the Presbyterian Church, which has about 1.8 million followers in the U.S., has voted to divest from ownership of some shares in three American companies that do business with Israel, including Hewlett-Packard, Motorola, and one Caterpillar. So a bit of controversy here, actually a lot of controversy.
A lot of controversy. This is big news within the Jewish world, of course. Once the churches start to divest from Israel, you know that it's going to be some kind of like domino effect to other churches.
Perhaps. And, could one detect a trace of, I don't know, I'm going to say it, anti-Semitism in there somewhere? I'm going to say maybe. Well, there's something about it that when you look at the reason that they chose those companies, just to cite one example, they chose Motorola. They singled it out because Motorola buys communications technologies for the IDF. There's that business relationship, and they don't take a shine to that without citing anything really specific about it. So it makes you wonder what of the logic
exactly is behind this decision. Well, it definitely alerted the Jewish community worldwide and Israel.
And the Israeli embassy has called the decision shameful, as you would expect it to, on their Facebook page, I believe. So again, it's something that is it a litmus test of things to come? We'll see.
What else do you have?
The New York Times, of course, reports on John Kerry's arrival in Cairo yesterday for his short lightning visit to push for a new Iraqi government. As the headline says, very matter-of-factly. There's a picture of him with.
And we already know that he is on his way to Iraq.
Right, it was just a short trip to Cairo, and he wanted to kind of get the message across that Arab states should use their influence to help Iraq form an inclusive government and to crack down on funding for Sunni militants, which was also on his short agenda. But also he was talking to Sisi on various domestic Egyptian or bilateral issues, and one of the subjects he talked about was calling on Sisi to reach out more to the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, Kerry is not an extremely popular figure in Egypt right now, nor is President Obama. And there's a headline from Al Aram, which is a leading Egyptian newspaper, which was quite interesting. Now, my Arabic is about as good as my Spanish, which is basically non-existent. But basically, that headline is saying something like, some Muslim Brotherhood leaders are warning of a WikiLeaks document leak should the White House pull back on its support of the Muslim Brotherhood. Now, this is kind of apocryphal. I'm not sure how authentic it is, but it is Al Aram. It's a big newspaper. And basically, according to this, some Muslim Brotherhood leaders are threatening to disclose secret documents which, according to them, detail agreements between the White House and the Muslim Brotherhood made back in 2011 when the White House was shifting its support towards what they called moderate political Islamic groups as opposed to authoritarian regimes.
Yeah, well, after Obama's speech in Cairo way back when, he has a long way to go until Cairo and Washington will be close as possible.
Close buddies,
but it's important, though, that Kerry is the first highest-ranking U.S. official to visit Sisi.
That in itself sends a message, of course. Speaking of good old USA, the Washington Post reports that a Polish foreign minister, apparently has called U.S. ties worthless.
Oh,
now,
where'd he wake up from?
This is Foreign Minister Radek Sikorski. Apparently, a Polish magazine obtained secret recordings with foreign ministers saying that the country's alliance with the U.S., quote unquote, isn't worth anything and is even, quote unquote, harmful because it creates a false sense of security. So, as far as Polish-American relations, some damage control on that front. Who knew?
No pierogi for you. What else?
No kielbasa for you. Times of London. FIFA. We're talking about the World Cup a lot. Well, according to the Times of London, FIFA's executives have pocketed a secret 100% pay rise.
100% pay rise?
Yeah, that's not
like doubling what you got.
Exactly. That's how they responded to new ethics rules, apparently, is by actually secretly doubling their salary.
Yeah,
Plus, they get these huge perks. They can file up to $100,000, apparently, in expenses, luxury travel, business class, meals. So I guess it's not all about the game.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's something that I don't know how they broke the story, but they did. Keeping it in England, or Britain, Air Force One is this lovely headline from the Daily Mail. The Queen of England has leased an £8 million helicopter for basically Kate and William, so they can shuttle around to their official engagements. And it's a little controversial because this is coming on the heels of news that the renovation of Kensington Palace, where the royal couple lives, is going to cost about £4 million. And it's just coming at a time of increased criticism of royal expenditures. Although you could say that they actually need the helicopter.
What about Baby
to get
George?
around.
Does he have a baby seat on that helicopter?
Maybe they have a drone for him. I don't know.
A little baby drone. Come on, Georgie.
But interestingly, the helicopter company is Italian.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, there you go. See, it's EU all together.
Nice leather seats.
Yeah. Anthony Grant, you'll be back.
See you.
On now to our next topic. The Iraqi government has apparently lost control of its western borders as Sunni militants took over crossings to Syria and Jordan. ISIS militants cut through other parts of the country as well, leading the U.S. President Barack Obama to warn of the risk of insurgents destabilizing other countries in the region. Meanwhile, the Iranian Supreme Leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, says he opposes any U.S. intervention, accusing Washington of vying for an Iraq under its own jurisdiction. For more on this story, we are rejoined in studio by I-24 News Senior Middle East Analyst Ali Waqid. Ali, thank you for staying with us. We're going to go see a quick report and then chat.
The situation in Iraq continues to go from bad to worse, with militants from the extremist Sunni group, the Islamic State in Iraq and the Levant, making further gains over the past few days. On Sunday, the town of Rutba in western Anbar province became the latest to fall into the hands of the militants. Reports also claim that ISIL militants were already advancing toward the key city of Haditha, 240 kilometers west of Baghdad, which includes the Haditha Dam, the largest hydroelectric facility in the country. Destruction of the dam would not only affect the country's electricity infrastructure, but also cause major flooding of the Euphrates River. According to some reports, Iraqi army forces had already left Haditha, and the militants were negotiating with local tribal leaders to enter the city peacefully. But military officials claim some 2,000 Iraqi soldiers are being dispatched to the site of the dam to protect it from an expected attack. On Saturday, the towns of Ana and Rawa in Anbar province were captured by the ISIL fighters, along with the border town of Al-Qaim, which holds great strategic value as a gateway into Syria. Meanwhile, the international effort to reverse the militant advance in Iraq has brought U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry back to the Middle East. Beginning in Egypt, Kerry intends to pressure regional Arab leaders to use their influence to encourage the formation of a less sectarian government in Iraq, which can unite the country in face of the threat. But Kerry also intends to pressure leaders to crack down on funding flowing in the direction of ISIL from various sources in the region, not necessarily governmental ones. The Americans insist more can be done on this front. Back in Iraq, armed Shia militias rallied at various locations across the country on Saturday in a show of strength intended to intimidate the Sunni militants of ISIL.
We will be loyal soldiers to protect our dear Iraqi people and to protect the holy religious sites, which are the most important things for us.
The largest of these rallies was held in the Sadr city suburb of Baghdad at the behest of the powerful Shiite cleric Muqtada al-Sadr, whose militias may number as many as 100,000 fighters, according to some estimates. As the rival sectarian factions raise their flags, it seems the battle for Iraq is far from over.
And we're also now joined by phone from Baghdad by freelance journalist and Arabist Annabelle Vanderberg. Annabelle, thank you for joining us.
Hello.
Annabelle, you are on the ground in Baghdad. Can you give us a sense of what security measures and safety measures the Iraqi government is now taking as ISIS heads towards Baghdad?
Yeah, well, on the streets of Baghdad, you can see that there are many militaries, there is many police. You can see that the government is indeed taking measures to protect the people and to protect the city. But what is more important is that you can see that several volunteers from the Shia militias are actually also protecting the city, and you can see that their protection is even more stronger, and they're more present in the streets even.
The people that you spoke with in the past few days, are they seeking any kind of U.S. intervention, or do they believe that the Iraqi government can fend off the ISIS militants by themselves?
Well, actually, the people I've spoken to tell me that the Iraqi government's militias are not so strong, but that they say either way, whoever wants to interfere, the big difference between the militias of ISIS and the militias of the government is that the militias of ISIS, they want to give their life for this. And the normal militaries of the Iraqi military, they do not want that. They just go to the military because it's their duty. So that's a big difference. And they say everybody who is willing to die for something will do everything in power to do that. So they're definitely stronger than anyone.
Stay with us, Annabelle. I want to bring this discussion into studio. Ali, of course, Kerry is in the region. Is it too late for him to be coming? Did he already miss, the brink or the perhaps hardest part is behind us?
It is too late, of course. You mentioned that they are taking control over the western crossings borders with Jordan. They are also taking the full control of all the crossing borders with Syria, and they are taking control of almost 90% of the Al-Anbar province, the biggest province of Iraq. There is a very important strategy that the ISIS are using that we didn't acknowledge before from these kind of groups. They have a clear strategy. They are trying now to take this dam of the Euphrates. They are trying to take control over the oil industry of Iraq, mean that I already looking for sources to finance their activity in case that the sponsors coming from the Gulf will decide for this or that reason to stop financing them. So we have on the ground, they are focusing on the west and on the north. West is Jordan. They feel that this region, mostly Sunnite, can be helpful. The Jordanian already closed the borders with Iraq, and of course in the northern part in Syria. So they are trying to build a continuation, territorial continuation, not only in the north but also in the west. They are encircling more and more Baghdad, and they are establishing, I don't want to say governments, but governors in the provinces that they are taking control of, and in the cities and towns. So they are sending a message: we're here to stay. We're here not to fight and
retreat,
and
but
disappear.
We're here to actually make a state, as something that they've been saying from the beginning. What's interesting is of course, is what the Iranian Supreme Leader said yesterday. Until now, everyone was looking at the U.S.-Iranian relationship and saying maybe Iraq is going to bring these two superpowers together and talk for a negotiated solution. Now we're seeing, of course, that Khamenei is backing off and saying U.S. should not be intervening.
That doesn't mean that there won't be a joint effort, even though he said this. You educated the Iranian people since 1979 that the big evil is the United States, and you cannot, from day to another, change this whole ideology and collaborate with the American in the Shiite vision. It is tough to see a Muslim getting helped by a non-Muslim to fight another Muslim.
Right.
So there is an ideological aspect, but at the end of the day, the interest of the Iranian will demand this kind of collaboration. The question mark is whether the American will collaborate with striking, especially in North and West Iraq.
Ali Waked, thank you. We're going now straight to Hebron, where I-24 News correspondent Yoav Borovich is on the ground. Yoav, what's the latest from the IDF operation there?
The latest is that during the night, 37 people were arrested. Overall, we have more than 400 arrests. 320 of them are Hamas members. Over 50 people arrested were previous prisoners that were released in the Gilad Shalit deal. Overall, there's about 10,000 Israeli soldiers inside, combing the area, scanning the area, looking for any kind of lead that will relate them to the abductors or the abducted teens. But so far, no significant development there. But really in hurting the Hamas infrastructure, there's significant developments, finding a lot of terror tunnels, a lot of labs that were developing explosives. But also we know that in the last day, the onus kind of shifted to the Golan Heights, but still here are thousands of soldiers. Now, Yael, there's the whole dilemma about the Ramadan that will start on June 28th. IDF is thinking of maybe removing some of the blockades, some of the roadblocks, because we know 350,000 people live here. Their ability to move is really limited. But so far, no decision. The IDF is saying we will operate until we need to, and we'll do everything because all the leads are pointing to here. But so far, no signs of life of the abducted teens.
Okay, I-24 News correspondent Yoav Borovich, thank you for updating us. Of course, we will be updated by you throughout the day from Hebron. Thank you again for joining us. That's it for now. We're going now to the top headlines, but coming up next, we're going to get to know a unique Israeli organization that aims to improve the lives of people with disabilities from around the country. But first, as we said, the headlines. Welcome back. It's still Monday, June 23rd, 2014. This is the Morning Edition. Thank you for staying with us. Last week, the Israeli Arab city of Kalansua held a special fundraising event called A Smile for Hope. All proceeds were dedicated to Beit Issie Shapiro, a nonprofit organization that is aimed at promoting the quality of life of disabled people across the country, with, of course, no distinction of gender, race, or religion. This event, which raised a staggering 300,000 shekels, is believed to be the largest Israeli fundraiser in the local Arab community. For more on the event and on the activities of this unique organization, we are joined in studio by Benji Maor, the director of the International Resource Development Department of Beit Issie Shapiro. Good morning, Benji. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for this opportunity.
So, A Smile of Hope, what was its objective? And of course, it did reach its objective, we saw by the 300,000 shekels that it raised.
Absolutely. Listen, we believe that children are children. And our organization takes upon it the responsibility to serve all sectors in Israeli society, from the Jewish, religious, Haredi, ultra-Orthodox, through Arab Israelis. About over a decade ago, we established the first early intervention center treating young children with severe disabilities in the Arab sector. After a number of years, we added into that center a program that deals with a hotline to help Israeli Arabs access their rights, and a family advancement center to promote inclusion. Mm-hmm. This event was a peak of the success that we've had over the years and a real testimony to the commitment of all Israelis and the Arab Israelis in that area to provide the highest quality services for children with disabilities and also to promote their full inclusion in Israeli society. Over 700 people gathered together that evening in the town of Kalansua from the entire area. People committed to the children, people with disabilities, people without, the mayor of Kalansua, people in the Knesset, and we all were gathered together to provide support for these children.
It's important to note that Israel is not noted perhaps for its philanthropy. Israelis themselves are not, when you compare it to other Western nations and so forth, a lot of NGOs are struggling with raising funds from within Israel, and they almost always look abroad. But this time it's different, and especially now we're talking about a minority within Israeli society.
Listen, one of the things that's unique about Beit Issie Shapiro is that we identify unmet needs in the field of disabilities, and then we innovate solutions. We promote inclusion, but we also share our knowledge through research and training. Israelis throughout our society have recognized that and provide philanthropic support for our organization, which is unusual, but I think they recognize that value. And there's no reason why within the Arab sector that should be any different. We understand that there is a culture of philanthropy in the Arab sector in Israel, primarily for religious institutions. But like I said before, I think to really understand how people are committed to full inclusion of people with disabilities, to see people come out and give, no matter what their socioeconomic level, to give to this important cause shows how much they're committed. And I think it's an important part of how Israel as a country is becoming more committed towards promoting inclusion.
But how does an NGO come into a community such as the one in Kalansua and kind of infiltrate into the community itself through its leadership, something that sometimes the Israeli government can't even do?
Thanks, that's a great question. Listen, we had children from the Arab sector in Israel at our main center in Ra'anana, and we discovered that family services need to be provided in the home language. We discovered that bilingualism is not recommended for children with disabilities. And also, we're a Jewish institution that runs according to the Jewish calendar, and these kids are Muslim. So we opened our center together with government. And when it started, people said they're not, children won't come. There's too many negative stigmas, but they did come. And they did see the importance and the impact. And we even have now mothers who have their children with disabilities at our center recommending to other mothers to bring them. The staff is local staff from that region, from the towns in the Southern Triangle area. And they're committed to improving the quality of life of children with disabilities, which we're thrilled about.
Has there been any challenges? I mean, vis-a-vis, of course, cultural challenges, language barriers, religious barriers. Have there been challenges that you needed to adapt Beit Issie Shapiro to meet these needs?
Absolutely. We have special consultative status on disabilities with the United Nations. And one of the reasons we got that status is because this international organization recognized that we know how to culturally adapt services to whatever target population we're dealing with. Certainly within the Arab sector in Israel, you're talking about families that have a large number of children, often more than one child with a disability. You're talking about families often with a lower socioeconomic level, and we adapt our services for them. We know how to provide the family support, which is so crucial to get the family engaged, because we understand that a disability impacts on the entire family. And we've been able, jointly with the staff and in the region, to meet those challenges. Another thing I'd like to add, we were recognized as Israel's inaugural most effective non-for-profit. Part of the reason we got that recognition is because we understand that you have to collaborate and create partnerships to make real change in the field of disabilities. So we work together with government. We work together with the local municipality in Kalansua, together with the community centers, together with the schools with children without disabilities. And doing that, then we're able to get everybody on board. And that's also definitely one of the reasons for our success in overcoming some of those challenges that I mentioned.
So now, after this successful peak, as you called it, what's the next summit to climb?
We recently returned our executive director, Jean Judas, our director of knowledge development, Shosh Kaminsky, and myself from the United Nations. Just 2 weeks ago, there was an international conference on disabilities. Israel has ratified the Convention on Rights for Persons with Disabilities. The slogan is "Nothing about us without us." We need to continue our work. We're fortunate for the philanthropic support that we received. One of the exciting things that happened at the event was the fact that the mayor of Kalansua declared that he's going to be allocating land for a center. Right now we're operating out of a rented facility. We know that if we had a facility of our own, there's a new kindergarten class that we could open and provide services for children that today are not receiving services. So there's plenty to do moving forward.
Plenty to do. Benji Ma'ol from Beit Issie Shapiro, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And now we get to say hello and good morning once again to Anthony Grant, who's here with, as always, with what's hot on the web.
Well, you know what's hot.
You never find what's cold on the web, do you?
Well, I don't find what's cold because what's hot is outside.
Yes.
Have you noticed that in the past couple of days it officially became summer?
I definitely noticed, and so did my electricity bill.
Yeah, as did mine. But in this part of the world, what one does is jumps into the beach, maybe swims. But they also do that in New York. And the famous annual Mermaid Day parade happened. It was on it was Saturday. And this is a famous thing in New York where people dress as mermaids and hop into the water in Coney Island. And
really?
New York's Mayor Bill de Blasio dressed up as a pirate, and he jumped in the water. I don't know if he jumped in the water, but he was...
Too bad he didn't dress up as a mermaid.
Well, I think his daughter did, pictured there in the post.
See.
And, this is the kind of mayor that kind of gets into the spirit of things. It's kind of a zany event. It's not the kind of thing that you
I had never even heard about it, Like, I was really... I like the play on word. Pirate Bill and the
de Blusios. Yeah. It's actually... It's a very exuberant, somewhat off-radar New York City event, but it's gaining in notoriety. It's the kind of thing you would never imagine, like Bloomberg to do, for example.
Right.
Very business-like. De Blasio, he's getting into the spirit of it, the spirit of summer.
Under the sea, yes.
Yeah.
What else?
So, but over in London, the Sun reports
that... No one's diving into the Thames head first?
Well, I could think of a few that should, but I'm not going to mention any names. But there's a Kate Kat spat.
Ooh.
Kate Moss is apparently at war with Lindsay Lohan. Yes. Why? Because she discovered that Lindsay has been contacting her husband. Contacting.
Why? Via what? Snapchat?
I don't know. Maybe it's through Tinder. I have no idea. But maybe it's actually they have a connection because Kate Moss's husband helped Lindsay Lohan with some music recording or something. So there's a professional connection there.
Right.
But apparently they had like a dust-up at the Chiltern Firehouse, a very swish London restaurant, an argument that was audible and other diners were taking note.
Ooh.
So, Lindsay
Taking note or taking notes? I want
both. I'd like to be a fly on the wall at that restaurant. I'm sure Lindsay Lohan just wanted to, express some warm, amicable feelings towards Kate Moss's husband.
She's always good with her words.
She's very good with her words. Yes, she's good. She's a multi-talented individual.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to get into any kind of rift with Kate Moss, my lord.
Or Lindsay Lohan. Or Kanye West.
No, definitely not with him.
Kanye West has been... reported that he wants to redesign Instagram because he thinks there's so much room for improvement. He also, according to this headline, has slammed President Obama, saying you can't affect change from inside the White House.
Wow, he's God. That's what he's trying to say. Basically.
He says he's on a mission from God.
There you go. I knew it. You can tell.
And actually, about Instagram, the picture of him kissing Kim Kardashian in front of the wall of flowers, apparently is the most popular Instagram photo ever.
Really?
Apparently. So,
hence he feels
he has the power to say to Instagram, look, I'm the man to redesign it. I mean,
obviously. If you get the most likes and you obviously know everything there is to know about this huge tech company that was sold to Facebook. Okay. Kanye.
So, Kanye. Yeah. Kanye just...
So is Obama taking Kanye seriously?
Well, we know that Obama does not have the kindest, warmest, fuzziest feelings towards Kanye West.
That's you do know that?
Yeah, he kind of dissed him in some nice way, and Kanye I think is always ready to jab back.
Right.
He says you've got to have money to make changes, and we know that, but I don't think he's endearing himself to the president too much with that. But
I don't think he knows much about politics 101. But anyway, Obama's on the Jay-Z Beyonce friendship. Kanye's
that's what matters more.
That's what matters, exactly.
Anyway, the news in the selfie front, also the Post reports that New York State has basically now said that you cannot take a selfie with a tiger.
Oh man, I was just about to do it.
Now,
why?
This is the given reason is that they want to avoid situations where like a tiger could actually eat someone at a zoo or a traveling circus, but there's this growing trend of guys taking selfies with tigers to look better on Tinder, OkCupid, and other dating apps.
It definitely ups your profile.
It's supposed to make you look cuddly, brave, whatever.
You know who has a picture with the famous picture with the tiger? The one and only. Vladimir
Putin.
Yeah.
That's right. Shirtless with a tiger.
Shirtless with a tiger.
But according to a legislator in New York State, people can still pose with bears, monkeys, and Geraldo Rivera.
No, that won't do it for your profile.
But I mean, a monkey versus
monkey
a tiger
gives the wrong message to those girls on Tinder.
Yeah.
Or guys, or whoever you're looking for.
I know. It's like I know tigers. Leave them alone. Cultural news. You know the girl with the golden earring, that famous painting? Yeah, pearl earring. She is back on view at the Royal Picture Gallery Moritz House in, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing the Dutch, in The Hague.
Nice.
This famous museum has been closed for 2 years. And now it's set to reopen on Friday, and the museum has been beautifully restored, and it's gearing up for an onslaught of visitors because, of course,
that is one iconic picture. I mean,
it is 1665 Vermeer.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And let's not forget that it was played in a more modern sense by Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, definitely.
So what does Scarlett Johansson think of the museum? I don't know. But I know that she does not take a shine to social media.
Okay.
Yes, she has come out and said...
She's too sophisticated for that.
Well, she says that she, interestingly, feels vulnerable enough when she gives an interview.
Right.
Which is an interesting perspective from a celebrity to say that they would feel vulnerable, but she also feels like she doesn't want to share everything other than what she shares in an interview, and she kind of goes against the grain.
Right. Well, I mean, as long as she has campaigns and movies, she doesn't really need to.
And SodaStream.
And SodaStream.
That was not a plug. But the last time we heard from her, it was that whole SodaStream controversy.
Right.
Yeah? But
I guess she has enough PR. That's what she's trying to say.
Yeah, I think she has enough going for this. She doesn't need to be Instagramming her nuptials or whatnot. USA Today has a story about Thighs the Limit. This was viewers were split on TV personality Matt Lauer's leggy shorts look, channeling Pharrell on Friday. There he is wearing that.
I'm happy to know now men are being criticized for what they're wearing.
Absolutely.
This is a first.
And now, I know. What do you think of that look?
I don't have a problem with it. What was the problem? Thighs the limit, meaning any higher than that, they're going to shut him off?
Yeah, I think just the fact that it's a cropped, suit, basically.
Right.
It's sort of like...
It's very European. Maybe the American viewers aren't
not ready
for
it. Yeah, maybe it's... I don't know. It's sort of a disconnect. I think if you're a pop star, you do what you want, but if you're more of a mainstream television personality, you're expected to wear a normal suit. But it's summertime.
Stretch the limits of the American fashion. Exactly.
It's not like you dressed up as a mermaid.
No. That would have been interesting.
That would be interesting, though. Yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Nice.
Dubai?
Yeah, quickly.
Well, do you know that Dubai's airport has overtaken Heathrow as the world's busiest?
No, I had no idea.
Yes, Vanity Fair has the whole scoop in their July issue. Never have, but it looks very interesting. A lot of great shopping, beautiful light-filled terminals, and this article, The New Jet Age, gets into the nitty-gritty of what it's like to transit through there. And Heathrow is still very busy, of course, but I guess Dubai is...
It doesn't look like that.
No, it doesn't look like that.
You know you've landed in Heathrow when you see the gray skies around you.
Absolutely. So I guess this is a cool airport if your travels take you to that part of the world.
Nice. I wonder what kind of food there is there.
It's probably a smorgasbord of international temptations.
Nice.
So,
well, next time we go, we're gonna head through there.
Transit through there and have some
Transit
good food.
through there. Thank you, Anthony Grant, for your, as always, intelligent headlines from the web.
Pleasure.
Next up, we're gonna get all the latest of the Mundial, the World Cup in Brazil. Of course, the winners, the losers from last night, and what can we expect tonight? But first, the headlines. Good morning, and thank you for staying with us. We're going now straight to Hebron, where our I-24 News correspondent Yoav Borovich is on the ground. Yoav, give us the latest updates from the overnight raids of the IDF.
Hi, Yael. Overnight, 37 people were arrested by the IDF. Overall, in the last 8-9 days, over 400 Palestinians arrested. 320 of them are Hamas members. Over 50 people arrested that were previous prisoners who were released in the Gilad Shalit deal. IDF is really active here. We're talking 10,000 soldiers, more or less, infantry units, battalions that moved in here, combing the area, scanning the area, looking for any kind of lead to the abductors and the abducted teens. So far, no significant development there. But there is development and fighting the terrorist infrastructure here of the Hamas. A lot of arrests, a lot of terror tunnels that were found, a lot of labs developing explosives. We know that in the last 24 hours, the military onus kind of shifted towards the Golan Heights, the Israeli-Syria border, but still, the big operation is here. And now, Yael, there's a dilemma regarding the Ramadan that will start on June 28th. We know that it's a month-long thing, and they're moving, and now they're blockades here around the city. The northern and the western parts are blocked. Just the southern part is open. It's the commerce center of the West Bank. So the IDF is really in the dilemma whether to release more, to open the tension a bit. But so far they're saying until we're not really developing in the investigation, until we're not finding the abductors, we're still here, and we will be here following any kind of developments.
Yoav Borovich, I-24 News correspondent there in Hebron. Thank you for joining us. Of course, we're going to be getting live updates from you throughout the day as the day progresses. Thank you for joining us. The Moscow State Yiddish Theater of the 1920s, once one of the most respected theater groups in the world, shut down in 1948 after all of its members were executed by Stalin's orders. But today, the British actor, writer, and comedian David Schneider has premiered his play, Making Stalin Laugh, which tells their story to rave reviews. A tragic storyline that has been made into a hilarious comedy. We're now honored to be joined via Skype from London by the person behind Making Stalin Laugh, David Schneider. Hi, David. Thank you for joining us.
Hi.
So, of course, just by the name of the show, Making Stalin Laugh, you know it's not going to be a complete comedy. There is a black side, a dark side to that comedy.
Yeah. I ultimately I wouldn't describe it as a comedy. Okay. My background is comedian, so there's a lot of jokes in it, and it's a celebration. Partially, what attracted me to the story was that you had this theatre company faced with terrible conditions, so that, you know, if I get a bad review for this play, then I'll sort of mope around. My family won't like me for a week or so, but that'll be it. But if they got a bad review, then that was literally a life or death situation. And yet, even in that setup, you still got these actors behaving like actors. You know, hey, that was my laugh. You trod on my laugh. How dare you? Having affairs, having tantrums. You know, being actors. And so it was a sort of celebration of the humanity that emerged even in that very difficult situation. That's where the comedy lies. But, you know, spoiler alert, they do get killed at the end. So it's pretty bleak.
It is pretty bleak, and it's also a tough subject to take on in 2014. Yiddish culture, Russia, and so forth in the Soviet Union during that time is not something that is quote-unquote sexy for the mass audiences. But you were able to make this subject from something from the past and make it very relevant also for today.
Well, I think so. I mean, you know, sort of working under censorship and working under dictatorship is very relevant today, and the situation in Russia and in Eastern Europe has played into my hands because, you know, I'm not saying that Putin annexed Crimea simply to promote my play, but there's a sort of sense where that sort of, there's echoes of the sort of dictatorial Stalinist. I'm not saying Putin is a Stalin figure, but that echoes still. And also, I think there's an interest in Yiddish culture. For me, I'm very passionate. I come from a Yiddish theatre background, although I didn't grow up speaking Yiddish. I studied it at Oxford. In fact, I researched a PhD in Yiddish, so I speak an Oxford Yiddish or the Queen's Yiddish, you might want to call it. And so I'm very passionate about Yiddish, and that this sort of threatened culture and in secular terms, vanished culture shouldn't be forgotten.
But Yiddish, of course, at least here in Israel, is something that's very much of it can be looked as a trend. Certain words, of course, come from the Yiddish, are integrated into the Hebrew language. How is it regarded in London?
Well, again, in English, there's so many words that, you know, whether it's schlep or nosh or mishmash or schmooze, whatever it is, there's so many words that are integrated into English. I mean, there is an interest in Yiddish amongst the Jewish community, mainly through klezmer rather than the language itself now, I'd say. But of course, the future of Yiddish is assured with the Hasidic community, the Haredi community. Now, there was a time when I was doing my PhD in the 80s where people were worried about the future of Yiddish, but now demographically, the Hasidic community have ensured that the numbers are safe and Yiddish is thriving again, although not in a secular form.
And the audience for Making Stalin Laugh, are you targeting mainly Jewish audiences, or are you looking for the general public?
Yeah, it's accessible to all. It's at JW3, which is the new Jewish Cultural Center. So there is a Jewish audience, but no, it's very much a play that appeals to everyone because it's that situation that anyone can relate to, which is having to do your work under very difficult conditions.
Indeed. Well, good luck, and of course, congratulations to those rave reviews that you have been getting. David Schneider, actor, writer, comedian, and of course the person behind Making Stalin Laugh, thank you for joining us from London.
Thank you for having me. Cheers.
And now we get to welcome I-24 News sports correspondent Mirav Savil here with the latest World Cup news and more. Mirav, it was quite the weekend.
It was quite the weekend, and it was quite the night last night. There weren't that great of a lineup of games. The first game of the night, Belgium-Russia, was actually sort of disappointing. We were all expecting Belgium to come out of the gate, calling them the dark horse again. We have that word. But they didn't look good at all. They kind of looked like Argentina. They just looked tired, like they shouldn't really be there. And somehow, in the final minutes, they squeezed in a goal and managed to get past Russia. Russia
it would
didn't
have been
look
embarrassing if they hadn't. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, Russia didn't play great in their first game either. They tied, and now they come out against Belgium. And it actually looked like Belgium only won because Russia got tired first. Right. So in this heat, we've seen this a lot in this heat, that a lot of it depends on who can outlast the other in the heat and who gets tired the least. And that's why it seems that Belgium came out, and it's again their substitutes coming off the bench and scoring late in the games. Their starters, even Eden Hazard.
The new blood. They needed that new blood.
Yeah, we've all been talking about their players, about how this is the golden age for Belgium and that they should be playing very well together. But even Eden Hazard, their star, didn't come out and play well until very late in the game, and he helped with the one goal, but he hasn't scored. It's all their substitutes that have come in and played very well for them, and it was a boring game to watch.
Right.
It wasn't exciting at all.
Right.
Belgium obviously on to the next round. Russia still has to wait and see. They still have one more round of games in that Group H. The more exciting game of the night is the last game of the night, the one that started for us at 1 in the morning.
Not because you're from the United States.
No. It has part of it. It definitely has part of it. I did have some USA pride coming out last night, but they stumped me in those last 30 seconds. USA-Portugal. US was leading in extra time. There was 30 seconds left in the game. There were 5 extra minutes. And Portugal was able to tie it on a header. And it was absolutely devastating as a USA fan to watch that. I will say, I probably shouldn't be admitting this on air, but the USA played so much better than Portugal. Portugal didn't deserve to tie this game.
Right.
And now for the US,
little things, like as you said with Belgium and Russia.
Exactly. It's the little things. And that's what's been so exciting about this World Cup, is that it's all these little things. It's all the teams that you didn't expect to make it. Costa Rica. Who thought Costa Rica would come out of the group of death to be the first one? They're in a group with 3 previous World Cup champions.
Right.
They've only made it to the second round once before this, and they're the first ones to get out with Uruguay, Italy, and England. And that's what's making this World Cup so exciting, and us fans are so... But obviously, we won't remember what happened in the group stage if the knockout runs aren't nearly as good.
Right.
But now's the time that, as fans, we're starting to do all the math, and we're forgetting, it's not only about winning the next one. It's okay, so if we don't win, but we tie, and then Ghana does this, and Portugal doesn't do this, the U.S. and Germany can still make it on, and it's the part us journalists hate because it involves math. But
so the USA-Portugal, you thought, as a fan and also as a correspondent, that the U.S. was taking it completely. It was a complete
It looked like it, obviously, until those last 30 seconds, where all the U.S. had to do is keep the ball away from the goal. All they had to do is keep it on the other side of the pitch, and Portugal somehow managed to just keep attacking, and they did. They kept their confidence high. They kept attacking, and honestly, it wasn't Ronaldo, and that's the probably one of the more surprising things about Portugal. We keep talking about it. Pepe didn't play because he got a red card in the last game, and Ronaldo is the star of this team, but Ronaldo didn't score either goal, which for me, that makes me, a little bit happier to see Portugal playing as a team and not just Ronaldo with a bunch of other players on the pitch with him.
Us in the media have underestimated Portugal's abilities as a team. We've only been looking at Ronaldo.
And that's our problem, is that we see a star and we kind of focus on him, but the team does revolve around Ronaldo. We can't forget that. He is their star, and they live and die by him. sometimes. We saw that in their first game. Ronaldo didn't play well, and they lost to Germany 4-0. Right. Last night he played a little better. Portugal was able to squeeze us through. Can they actually make it to the next round? It all depends on what happens in the U.S.-Germany game and if they can beat Ghana and goal differences, but it's very, very unlikely that they're going to make it through. But there is a great slate of games tonight.
Before we get to tonight, the USA fans, I'm sure, tell me what went on online after that game.
I mean, it's devastation. I talked to a bunch of Americans who were there, and they were just in shock. I don't think anybody knew what to say for the first 10, 15 minutes. I know I just sat there and stared at the screen because you didn't think it actually happened, and you saw it online, Twitter, Facebook, anywhere you went, your text messages from friends where people were just saying they got gutted. Yeah. All they had to do was keep it for the next 30 seconds, and they seriously got gutted. That's the best word for it. We did speak about that this World Cup, USA fans are much more behind their team than they were last World Cup, Every World Cup, it's definitely growing, and they're getting more excited. And I think the win against Ghana and the fact that they could have been the first ones out of Group G after everybody said they'll never make it past Germany and Portugal, it got fans even more excited. But last night, it deflates the confidence.
When do they play again?
They play again on Thursday against Germany, and it's a win, tie, or possibly go home. So there's several options for them, but it is a game that is very important for both the U.S. and
many more American fans tuning in. So tonight, what do we have?
Tonight we have first game of the night, Netherlands-Chile. Not as exciting because they've both already made it to the first round. It's more about whoever wins is first in the group, and whoever loses obviously is going to be second. And then that corresponds to the next round of who they're going to play in Group A, because this is Group B. Next game of the night, Spain. For them, it's more about not embarrassing themselves as much as they already have. They just have to get one win. Previous champions.
They've had quite a number of goals.
Absolutely, and they're already going. So we're just basically watching this game to see who they will face in that knockout round, and that's where we get to Group A. That's where it's really exciting tonight. Brazil, Mexico, and Croatia. Cameroon has already been knocked out completely, but those three teams, two of them are moving on. We don't know which yet, and all four teams play tonight. Brazil versus Cameroon. I don't think Cameroon's going to give them that big of a fight. They can win this one easily. As long as they win it, they're on to the next round. And then Mexico-Croatia is the one that's going to be very, very interesting. Mexico come in this game with 4 points, Croatia with 3. Mexico, all they have to do is tie the game, and they can be on to the next round. But if Croatia wins it, Mexico can go home. Even after that incredible performance that we saw against Brazil, it could be heartbreaking for them. And
there is that, Mexico is closer to Brazil and Croatia.
There's definitely a very home field advantage for anybody who's from South America, and that's helping out a lot. And we saw that also with Costa Rica, is that they're saying that all of a sudden a bunch of Costa Rican fans are popping on around Brazil. None of them are really Costa Rican, but everybody's rooting for the underdog, and that could be helping them also. So obviously the South American teams or even Central American, Mexico's case, are enjoying this added celebration around them that is really pushing them through.
Indeed. So lots of games tonight. How is Brazil doing in terms of safety and hosting so many people?
There's still, we see protests popping up here and there. We haven't heard anything too big. I think the biggest news that came out was that a bunch of Chile fans managed to find their way into the media center, and that was, I think, the biggest news about safety. But there are still protests going on. There were arrests over the first couple of days, and I think we're going to keep seeing that. Obviously, Brazilians are not happy, but we're also seeing fans that are coming out and saying, you know what, we're still going to back our team. This is ours to take. Last time it was a heartbreak because they lost to Uruguay in the finals in Brazil, and now they're ready to come back and take it.
Do we have any World Cup themes already, or advertising that we can already say this is going to be 2014? We had it in South Africa, of course.
We don't have any noisemakers or anything, but we do have the Adidas and Nike battle. I think that's what's going to come out of this. Everybody's going to remember the Nike and Adidas commercials that they're seeing, and I know I'm loving watching them, and all these commercials that are coming out are very exciting. The cartoon one, I think Nike still won with their clone cartoon one. It was absolutely an incredible commercial. But those are the two to keep an eye on. And there's little things that are coming out. They're saying that the
different
spray,
colored shoes of Puma,
exactly, and there's a whole philosophy about the fact that the spray that they're now using is because Nike and Adidas wanted people to see their shoes, so it's a reason for them to zoom in on it. I don't know if that's true, but it's all those little things that are really
consumer culture taking over.
Exactly. Even if it's not
Cup.
True, people are talking about the sneakers because you're going to look at them.
So besides the USA, because you are, of course, American, who is your favorite team?
Besides Chile. I'm rooting for Chile. Besides,
not because of they're not an underdog.
they're not a Costa Rica level underdog. It's family history. That's what it is. We're all ties that are going through.
So for the sake of it, I'll be a Costa Rican
a
fan just for Costa Rica. Merav Sevir, thank you for joining us. That's it for this morning. Visit us on the web or on our Facebook page, i24news.tv. And don't forget to join us again tomorrow morning to start your day every day. I'm Yael Listener-Levy. Next up are the headlines.